Hey guys, Bros and Ramos. And this past Friday, the Miami Dolphins defeated the Atlanta Falcons 20-13 in their preseason Week 1 matchup. This matchup included a lot of young guys, undrafted guys who are trying to make their way on the rosters due to the fact that the Miami Dolphins and Atlanta Falcons had joint practices in Miami this past week. Joint practices were pretty good. Guys were getting good reps against their starters from other teams. And that's good to have very early on in this preseason process, especially in the Week 1 portion. Most of the time, teams will postpone just have their joint practices go on pretty late into the preseason. I think this is very good to have it early on. You're hitting each other, your own team, the whole time. It's good to go against opposing opponents and save some type of amped up build up. Maybe for them, instead of holding it off until you play them in the second to third week of the preseason. So I think it was good to have joint practice this early on for the Miami Dolphins, also the Atlanta Falcons. So some takeaways from the preseason game. We saw some of the new rules in effect. One that is 100% here to stay is the dynamic kickoff. Kickoff is the kicker is kicking from the same spot, but the differences are that the teams are 5 yards apart instead of the whole field build up to it, and then on top of that there's typically two receivers, two people to receive the kickoffs, and on top of that they have to kick it within this landing zone, otherwise it's just not a void kickoff, but it's just not a good kickoff. It's penalized, etc. But yeah, there's a landing zone, and pretty much ball has to land in there. And so we'll see that in a second when I show you guys the highlights from this game. But yeah, no starters in this game due to the joint practices. Most of the starters got good reps against the other opposing team starters. So both teams were fine with letting a lot of their starters sit out this first preseason game. I think that may change in this upcoming week's preseason game for the Miami Dolphins, because I don't think they're having joint practice with their upcoming opponent. But on top of that, we also saw there's a tracker in the football, and it's virtual first down. So essentially what is happening is they're tracking whether or not the ball crosses the line of game. But there was a specific scenario that we saw in this game where Skylar Thompson was rushing for the first down on 4th and 2, and the ball marker decided he got enough for the first down. But upon review, after Raheem Morris challenged it, it was deemed that he was short of the line to gain due to him stepping out. So those are some things that this new system is not faulty, but it's not taking consideration. It's just one singular thing. It's determining whether the ball has passed the line to gain, and in the truth of it is they didn't take into account where he stepped out. So that's the biggest thing, my takeaway from that. But aside from that, let's talk about this game in its whole. So a lot of action in the first half. Second half was a little bit of a doozy. Not much going on in the second half. So let's just start getting into these highlights. So we have, like I said, the dynamic kickoff. So the teams are not allowed to contact until the receiver has the ball. So that's what you saw there. But early in the game, Michael Penix Jr. got the start, but Sirianni Neal with the fumble recovery early on in this game. Big moves by him. Big offseason acquisition. Skylar Thompson thought he had a good pass to Malik Washington. It was nothing but that. It was an interception to the Atlanta Falcons. But he did make some plays throughout the rest of the remainder of the game. This is Tanner Conner with a big game, and you see some pretty key plays from the Miami Dolphins here. How about Jeff Wilson Jr. getting into the end zone for 6? That puts the Dolphins up on the board. I think at this point it was a 10-10 ball game. And yeah, it's good to see Jeff Wilson, get some reps. He was pretty much targeted a bunch of times in the end zone and wasn't really doing too well at that. But happy to see he finally got one in. Nick Needham making a big PBU. Love to see Nick Needham make some plays. Pretty sure he's going to make the roster. It's just a matter of fact of whether or not how much playing time he's going to get. But another big play by Malik Washington here. Big end-around play. And Patrick Paul was definitely helping lead the way there. And then Christian Brooks sending a defender to the earth, making him touch ground. Always some angry runs with Christian Brooks. How about Isaiah Mack with this diving fumble recovery off the botch snap? Desmond Ridder thinking it was neutral zone infraction. It's not. And it helps set up the Jalen Wright touchdown. And, good to see rookies getting in the action. How about I think a second-year guy, third-year guy, Channing Tindall, with the big sack to close out the first half. And like I said, second half wasn't really much going on there. He wasn't going to really deep dive for some of those plays. Not to be rude, but a lot of those guys probably will not make the roster, unfortunately. So, takeaways from this preseason game is the QB battle right now is looking like it's being, for the second string, is being led by Skylar Thompson. Let's see what Mike White brings to the table. Pulling from him, he's a local Miami guy, but I want the guy who is going to be best suited for the backup position to be in that role. Should things change down the line throughout the season, we'll see. I know the Dolphins are paying Mike White more money, so that definitely puts some thought into things. But aside from that, I think this is Mike White's job to lose. One, solely because of what Mike White has done in the NFL so far. He's shown that he can come in and be a competent quarterback. On top of that, Dolphins are paying him more money than they are paying Skylar Thompson. So those are some things I take into account when it comes to making these roster decisions. Aside from that, it was good to see a lot of the younger guys out there and see guys like Storm Duck, a lot of these guys that the Dolphins have brought on this year who were making some plays. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any video of Storm Duck's PBU, but it was a nice one. I liked it a lot. He's probably a roster hopeful, but things are changing. And like I said, dynamic kickoff, not the craziest fan of it, but I think the Dolphins, they're a team known for their speed. And should they have the right thought process behind these kickoffs, it can be really, like I said, dynamic in the name itself, and produce some big time returns for the Miami Dolphins. And special teams is going to be a big part of scoring this season with this new dynamic kickoff. So let's see what happens. To see it essentially builds up as a gigantic running play, and if you can make some laterals, make some people miss early on, you could have a big time return and set up good field position for the Miami Dolphins, who already have a dynamic offense. So I don't see why not this could be a big focal point of the game plan for the Miami Dolphins. That being said, I want to also talk about the ball marker with the first downs, the tracking first downs. I'm a fan of it when it comes to anything aside from the boundaries. Like, from seeing what happened in this last game when Skylar Thompson went out of bounds, was ruled first down. They challenged it. They're like, hey, he stepped out actually earlier. Those are things where it's going to get hairy with this ball marker and tracking the first down. Aside from that, anything literally inside the hashes, love it. Anything that involves the boundaries, I think it's going to be a little squirrely, and I think it's going to be a lot of coaches challenging it. And like Raheem Morris did, it worked out well for him. But how will this carry on into the regular season? This is a rule that they're testing out during the preseason. They're going to try to carry it over into the regular season should they deem it successful. I think anything literally inside the hashes is perfect. Anything that's like around the boundaries could be a little squirrely, but we'll just have to wait and see with more of these games going on. Aside from that, what do you guys think of this first preseason game? And if any of you guys were really closely following the joint practices, let me know what your guys' favorite moments from that were. But hey, 1-0 in the preseason. I think this is a good starting point for a lot of these young guys. Let's see who ends up making the roster. But some key plays from like Tanner Connor, Isaiah Mack, Storm Duck. These are people who are going to help make a name for themselves and see what they can do and possibly try to make this Miami Dolphins roster. But a lot of key players on this Dolphins roster, and let's see how much space is warranted for all these unsung guys who are trying to make a name for themselves. So, yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with the performance from the Dolphins overall. But it's still preseason. Still, this was a lot of the backups for both teams. But one thing I also want to take away is Michael Penix is actually pretty good. He's pretty good. I liked what I saw from him as just a fan of the game. But I think he definitely has some work to be done. So let's see what goes on with that Atlanta Falcons team and how they go about their quarterback situation. I definitely think Kirk Cousins is a guy. He's a starter. He's going to be the QB1 for the foreseeable future. But I think they do have a formidable backup plan in Michael Penix Jr. So those are my takeaways from just overall this entire Miami Dolphins Atlanta Falcons matchup. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you in the next one. Not too many preseason build-up videos, but more than likely we'll recap all of them. Next week might be a little tough one. Definitely celebrating my father's birthday, so that should be fun. So if you guys want to be cool, say happy birthday to my dad, either in this video or in the next one recapping next week's preseason game. Appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.